evening to your listeners. What you're saying is very, very accurate. When the development finance left, a lot of people expected widespread collapse in terms of businesses. But what actually happened was the opposite, right? Most of the businesses that were dependent on development capital actually kept on running. And it wasn't because the funding had gone away, but because they had a solid base. And our team, we've been working with most of these businesses for a long time. And I'll give you a short story, right? There is a founder I was talking to about 2 weeks ago, and he was a bit involved with getting some development finance. I can't say the institution, and he had built a fintech business that processes millions of transactions. He has about 50 or 60 employees, but he had no institutional backing. When USAID had left, right, I spoke to him and I asked him, what really kept you going? He said that when he was growing up, he had a lot of hardship, him and his mother, and he needed to prove to his mom that all the hardship and all the fees that she had been paying was actually worth it. And I think that resilience does not necessarily come through from aid programs. It comes through from we as Africans within, and these businesses just did not collapse. And the funding, even though it stopped, we as Africans, we have to be self-sufficient and we have to continue going. When you look at development finance as a whole, it's a commercial viability. And private equity, we focus very much in terms of what is also already viable. The businesses that were left behind were already generating revenue, they already have customers, and they already have resilient teams that are working alongside them. The challenge now that comes in is getting capital that can take them from necessarily not just starting, but real growth. And the thing is, what kept on happening is the infrastructure that these businesses had built had only gotten them so far. And we, as private equity, we live in these markets, and there is a perception that gets created where investors invest from other continents. But we as founders, we as private equity, we live in the same cities as these founders. We sit in traffic with them. Our children go to the same school. And when we invest in businesses, we have to get it right because I see these guys at the gym, we see each other at the offices, and private equity can get that results. And the operational depth that private equity brings truly is the unique factor behind all this and really generating some level of structure and just overall support in general. It's an unfortunate, but it's a sad global perception that exists. And the reality is there is tons of research out there that completely disputes this. And I'll give you an example. McKinsey did a research, and this research I think was in 2025. It highlighted that there's 345 companies on the African continent that generate over 1 billion in revenue. Interestingly, 147 of those businesses are in Johannesburg. I mean, not Johannesburg, but are in South Africa. And a huge portion are also in Nigeria, in Egypt, in Kenya, in Rwanda. So the businesses that are generating revenue are there. Another way of looking at it, though, is when we look at the overall global private equity market, there was a general dip in terms of the deal volumes that have been happening. But in Africa, that has been growing steadily year on year. And I think the issue over here is that the perception of risk really comes more from a familiarity and not necessarily a data point of view. And I think institutional investors, as well as capital, really needs to go beyond just the perception that they have. And there's a common narrative that says, come to Africa, see the place, and you'll be convinced. However, just visiting the continent isn't necessarily enough. You kind of have to live here. You have to understand the culture, understand the language. And I think that's where private equity on the continent really has a large opportunity because we are not investing and leaving. We are here. We are living with the entrepreneurs, and we have to get it right. And there's a joke I make to one of my friends is if we invest in a business and it doesn't work, I can't get on a plane and go to another country. I have to sit here. So that's how we look at it.